everyone! Welcome back to New York Detective Stories. I am Mickey, and today we will be talking about justifiable homicide. We have a very special story for you from our very well-known detective, Thomas Ong. Hello, Detective Ong. It's so good to see you again.
Very nice to see you too, Mickey.
I'm excited. What story do you have installed for us? I know our audience wants to know.
Well, the topic today was justifiable homicide. So I have a story to share that involves that. At one point early in my career, I was stationed inside the station house on station house security, which is basically a non-exciting job, and you just have to guard the precinct. But one evening when I had that duty, a taxi driver, it's a Chinese taxi driver, come running into the precinct and was ranting about being robbed, and he was a taxi driver. So I understood what he meant, and I directed him over to the complaint room to give a complaint to the complaint room.
Why did you do that? Is that required?
Well, all crime should be reported. And the way it is reported is by the victim to tell the police through the complaint room that there was a crime committed on them. And the way they do it is to go to the complaint room and fill out what they call a complaint report, giving vital information, possibly a description, possibly a timing of occurrence to set a pattern when this crime could have happened same time, same day, so to help the detectives to solve a crime. So all crime should be reported.
What if the victim isn't able to report their crime? Who will report it for them?
Well, usually family can report it. Like in a homicide, if someone's dead, very hard to report a crime. So usually a family can report it, or a responding officer can start the report, but it does have to be somebody from the family to report it. The police cannot report to themselves. So it has to be somebody, either themselves, the victim, or the victim's family. And many times when victims are injured, they'll go to the hospital, and when it's apparent that they've been injured, the hospital staff will notify the police. This happens when people are stabbed and they go directly to the hospital, or someone calls the ambulance, and the ambulance gets there before the police does, and they take him because of medical necessity to the emergency room. Then the police will find out where they took him by the radio dispatcher, and they will proceed to go to the emergency room and follow up and take the initial report. So when these reports are made, they get processed by the police department, and if there needs further investigation, they'll refer them upstairs to the detective squad. Okay, but in this incident, I was working the station house security, and this person, Chinese man, came in and said, I've been robbed, I'm a taxi driver. And I said, okay, go take take a seat and give your report to the complaint room. He said, no, the man's still in the car. And then I thought, okay, now there's an immediacy for me to take police action.
You automatically think urgency.
Well, I felt the urgency. I felt the urgency in his voice, and then at that point, I felt the urgency in his voice. Then I kicked into my police mode of law enforcement. I took my gun out, and I was going to go out, and I thought perhaps he had trapped the perpetrator, if you say, or the bad person in the car that tried to rob him. So as I was going out, he grabbed my arm, and he said, don't rush. I said, why not? Well, that's exactly what I said. I said, why? And he looked at me and he said, no need to rush. He's dead.
He's dead?
I said, that's what I said. He's dead? Why is he dead? But I cannot be sure if he's excitable.
You don't think he...
Well, I had to go find out. So at that point, I approached the vehicle cautiously, and it was a taxi at the foot of the 5th precinct. I went down the steps, I could see the driver's door open, and I went around, I could see somewhat inside, but it was nighttime, it was dark, and I went around to the passenger front side, and I had my gun in my hand. I could see a shadowy figure inside the car. And I held my gun up to the window, and I cautiously opened the door, and out comes this arm with a gun, but it was in a prone position.
Oh my God, wow.
Then I realized, well, the person is not very active. So he's laying there with the gun in his hand, and I look in, of course I secured the gun, I gently took the gun out of his hand, just in case he had a muscle reaction.
That gun,
it was a revolver.
Belongs to the victim, or?
Well, it was in a man's hand. I have no idea at this point. Right now, I'm trying to secure the scene.
To collect evidence.
Trying to secure the scene and make sure it's safe.
Create a crime scene, correct?
Well, we're establishing a crime scene, but immediate safety is the immediate concern. Because now you know there's a gun in the street. If he had a reflex reaction, he could have squeezed the gun and the bullet could have went anywhere into Chinatown and killed somebody. So I wanted to prevent that. That was the immediate concern, was for safety. So I bent over, cautiously took the gun while I was pointing my gun at him, and I realized that he was unconscious and he was not awake. So I took the gun and I kept it for safekeeping and to start the chain of evidence. I took my gun, I placed it back in my holster after perusing the car and realizing that there's no other people in the car that could pose a danger.
The crime scene.
Yes, I did a basic analyzed crime scene for safety. So now the crime scene is safe. So at that point, I'm going to say what really went on here. Why is there someone laying in the front seat, and now that I notice with my flashlight that the pool of the front well of the car is filled with blood, and that person is lifeless, and then he's not alive. So if he's obviously dead, at that point I had to call for an ambulance, get medical assistance, and from then on I had to secure the crime scene. Now we know we have a crime scene. So now we back off a little bit, and since I can't do any first aid on a person that seemed to be bled out into the well of the car, and he's laying there, and then I have to now make sure I have the cab driver within, my reach so I can question him. So at that point...
So he's a suspect?
Well, I have to know what's going on. There's obviously a dead person in his cab. There's obviously he was driving. So he could be a suspect, of course.
He could be.
Of course. That's just common sense. But it'll be proven out after I finish talking to him, and we'll figure that out later.
A dead guy with a gun in his hand. A pool of blood. A robbery. Didn't it start out as a robbery before? And now it's a possible homicide. Come back tomorrow for our next episode with Detective Ong.